to item number 11, which is public hearing items. And our first item is 11.1, and it's the third public hearing to receive input from the community regarding the redrawing of district boundaries and presentation of draft district maps. Public hearing has to start promptly at 6 p.m. Floor is yours, sir.
All right, good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Jeff Simonetti. I'm with the National Demographics Corporation. And again, we appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening. Oh, looks.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make one announcement. We were requested to have a live. So Sabdi, can you have our live translator maybe stand up and let her know where she's at so that if folks need headphones.
Si tenemos alguien que habla español, si necesitan traducción en español de la Junta, tenemos a María atrás, el que trae la máscara con los pantalones blancos. Ella le puede dar una
Headphones.
para que escuchen la Junta en español.
I had a problem with the equipment. I have the transmitter with the microphone and the receiver with power, and they all have it up, but I can't get a connection. I had one of the officers help me. So if I can bring that person down here, I'll translate as they happen.
Okay.
Is he here already?
¿Tenemos alguien que necesita traducción en español? El señor de amarillo. ¿Alguien más?
Okay. So she should be set up and then we'll go ahead and begin. Thank you, Jeff, for your patience.
Not a problem. All set?
I think so.
Perfect. All right. Well, again, good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Jeff Simonetti with the National Demographics Corporation. As always, we appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening. And tonight is our third public hearing, particularly talking about the first review of potential draft maps. So tonight we're going to talk about, quickly go through a quick overview of the project timelines and next steps, and then we'll be reviewing the draft maps this evening. It's the main focus of tonight's discussion. As you will recall, for the last times that we've spoken, there is a specific process because of California.
Jeff, do you
Yes.
mind just going a little bit slower for the translator? So
Sure.
Thank you.
For California Assembly Bill 849, there is a specific set of hearings that we have to go through. There are 4 total public hearings that we have to go through. And we had 2 initial pre-draft map hearings, which were prior to the release of the draft maps on November 3rd and December 1st. And then we have to have 2 more draft map hearings, one this evening and one is scheduled for February 2nd, to discuss and revise the draft maps and also to discuss the election sequence. And when we talk about the election sequence, that is which districts will be up in 2022 and which districts will be up in 2024. The maps also have to be approved by ordinance. So we will have 2 different steps. So there'll be a first reading of the ordinance and a second reading of the ordinance. And we're planning on having the map adoption hearing on March 2nd. The process must be complete by no later than 8th, and that is the deadline for us to submit the map to the Riverside County Registrar of Voters in enough time to be able to be processed for the 2022 elections. This is an important slide because it governs how we look at maps and whether they are valid, and these really govern the main process of the redistricting process. On the left-hand side, we have the federal laws, and particularly pertaining to the Federal Voting Rights Act. And this has 2 main key components. First, districts have to have generally equal population, and there can be no racial gerrymandering. And when we say generally equal population, that means that there can be a no greater than 10% deviation between the largest district and the smallest district as a percentage. In the blue box in the middle, we have what's called the California criteria for cities, which is specifically focused on Assembly Bill 849. This is a set of rank ordered criteria for how the districting process takes place. And there are 4 main components here. First, the districts have to be geographically contiguous. we talked about neighborhoods and communities of interest, and where practicable, we want to keep those together. The districts have to have easily identifiable boundaries, and they also have to be compact, meaning that they do not bypass one group of people to get to a more distant group of people. And finally, what we've talked about again, we can potentially look at things such as if we have areas that will have potential future population growth, as well as minimizing voters that are shifted to different election years. So why do we have to go through the redistricting process? This chart shows. So this shows the existing districts as drawn currently, but with the 2020 census data put into them. And as you can see here on the third column, or excuse me, third row from the top, you'll see the deviation. And again, we mentioned that this has to be, we have to have under a 10% deviation. The deviation is slightly above that 10% threshold with the districts as is. So it's necessitating us to go through that process. Here for reference, again, is where our existing council districts are. And one of the important slides as well is looking at citizen voting age population, and particularly protected class citizen voting age population. In this instance, we're showing where the Latino citizen voting age population is. And when we refer to citizen voting age population, that means any citizen who is over 18 years of age. It's not required that they're registered to vote. It's just anyone who is a citizen who is eligible to vote. And this again is showing you where your Latino citizen voting age population is. And you'll see in each one of the maps that we put together a spreadsheet as well with the specific demographics for each one of those maps associated with it. So this evening, we received 9 total draft maps for consideration. And there were 3 of them, plans 102, 103, and 107, that were submitted that were not population balanced. And 2 plans were submitted through the online mapping tool, which were plans 106 and 109, and those were both population balanced. So for the remainder of tonight's hearing, we're going to review the remaining dates for the hearings, and then we'll get into the overview of the draft maps. So for the remaining hearings, again, tonight we have January 19th is our 3rd hearing. And we are scheduled to have the 4th hearing on February 2nd, which will be potentially the introduction of the ordinance. And then, as I mentioned, because this is an ordinance, it has to have 2 readings for this. So February 2nd will be the 4th hearing. March 2nd will be the ordinance adoption. And this has to be completed by no later than April 17th to be able to be ready for the November 22 elections. So that completes my presentation. I'll stop here and ask if there are any particular questions pertaining to the presentation, and then we can go into the draft maps.
I think we just keep going. Yeah, we'll just keep moving and then we'll go into public comment after that.
Okay, can we pull up the draft maps? Thank you. All right. So for this evening's hearing, we've put together a review map for, and does this mouse work? Here we go. 1 second. Okay. So for each one of the maps, we have put together what we call an interactive review map here, so that we can go through and see each one of the maps individually. So what I thought I could do is give just an overview of each one of the maps that were put together. And then we can maybe ask for questions and then go into specific details on each one of these. So Plan 101 was just taking a look at what are some of the ways that we could make minimal changes to the map and get to population balance. So if you recall with the existing districts, District 1 and 2 were slightly overpopulated, and District 4 was underpopulated. So here we took District 4 and added the southwesternmost portion of District 1, former District 1, and I'll zoom in. It's this particular area, south of Miles and the Indian Springs Golf Club area. We added that into District 4. And then we added a small area of District 2, this area just west of Golf Center Parkway into District 3 to help with the population balance. Plans 102 and 103 were not population balanced as submitted, but I thought it was important to add those into public record because they gave some good ideas on potentially how to redraw the maps. So if you'll see here, particularly in both plans 102 and 103, the areas that they wanted to add into District 4 to help with the population balance was the area here up against the wash. So all this area in here. The challenge with the way that both 102 and 103 were drawn is that there is a significant amount of population in this area. So if you put all of this area into District 4, as you can see with both plans 102, 103, and 107, they are substantially out of population balance. But what we did was try to take some of the ideas there from these maps and put them into some of the other maps to make sure that they are population balanced. So for Plan 104, here, District 4, which is the purple district, pushes slightly further to again, captures the Indian Springs Country Club, and then pushes slightly further to the east to capture some of this area as well. And then District 5 adds the area here, oops. Dr. Carrion Boulevard, and this area is added into District 5. The other change that we made as well is the areas to the west of Golf Center Parkway to balance out the population. This area here was added into District 3 from District 2. For Plan 105, again, this pushes District 4 slightly south and captures the area in Indio High School, around Indio High School, adding that into District 4. And then the substantial change here is District 5 now adds the area here between Jefferson and Madison into District 5 from District 4. And then to balance out the population between Districts 2 and 3, again, it added the area to the west of Golf Center Parkway. Plan 106 was a map that was submitted through the online mapping tool, and this was called Proposed Indio Map 2. The substantial difference that it has here is that it adds in a part of District 1 that was in District 2 right now, so along the 10 freeway corridor here, so between Avenue 44, generally between Avenue 44 and Jackson, is added into District 1. And then there are some small areas of District 3 now west of Monroe Street that get added into just into District 3 from District 4. This also map also does the same as the prior map, where it adds the southwestern portion, again, up against Highway 111 into District 5 from District 4. Highway 107 was another one of the maps that was not population balanced. And again, it looked to add a lot of the areas here, again, up against the wash into District 4. But again, like the other maps that were not population balanced, this area has significant amounts of population and would not population balance by adding that whole area in. Plan 108 takes some of that. So what we tried to do here was add some of the population area that is in that wash area to balance out District 4, to take that from District 1. And then, as the prior maps did, again, adds this area in the northwestern portion of District 5 from District 4. And then the final map this evening is Plan 109. And just one note, the original PDF, and we fixed this, but the original PDF that was put into the packet, when this was drawn in the online mapping tool. And when we transitioned it over from the online mapping tool to our software to put into our review map, it changed around the district numbers, but we sent out a revision, so the district numbers align now with the map that was submitted through the Dave's app. This is the Indio Citizens United map, and so the changes that they make here is that there's a northern, so District 1 essentially takes a northern district and adds much of the areas north of the 10 freeway into one district. And then also moves some of District 3 down into the areas where 2 and 4 were. So particularly this area here where we had talked about earlier, it takes some population from Districts 4 and 2 and adds that in, and then adds again some areas that were in District 3 into District 5. So those are the maps that we have received and processed for consideration. And so I think it would probably make sense now if there are either particular questions, and also to open up the public hearing for comment associated with the matters.
Do we have any questions from council? No? Or Pro Tem? No? Okay, it's a public hearing item, and I will open a public hearing, and we do have some requests to speak. So I would ask folks to please remain at your 3 minutes that you're allowed to speak, so we could get everyone in a timely manner. So public hearing is now open. I do have some folks in attendance, and I will start with Ms. Vanessa Becerra.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Mayor Herman and City Council. I'm Vanessa. I'm Vanessa, and I am a resident of Indio. I live down the street from Miles Park. So I'm looking at my community of interest, which is within that area. I like to bike. I like to walk around. I like to skate around because the city of Indio does not have a skate park yet. Hopefully they will soon. So I would really like to see my community stay connected in that, to be able to have access without a car, right? Because I don't have a car. The one map that I did see and the one map that I actually participated with the community with was map 109, which is actually Indio Residents United map. So I really urge the city of Indio to consider that as our redistricting map, because that not only keeps the communities together, it keeps communities connected to economic opportunities, and it also keeps, you know, folks who really see each other within our communities as our neighbors. So thank you all.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Becerra. Move on to Adriana Rivera.
Hello, good evening. My name is Adriana. I've lived in Indio my entire life and came back in 2013. And by came back, I mean after university. Ever since then, I've been working in physical therapy. My current office is in Town and Country South, so off of Dr. Carrion Boulevard, currently District 5. I believe from what I've seen there, I would, the hospital should stay in the same district as the Empire Polo Field. I believe those are both major entities that, we're going to depend on in the future as it stands now and, in the foreseen future. So I would like to keep that community as one. And also, I grew up off of Oasis and Dr. Carrion, between Oasis and Jackson Street. And at that time, my best friend lived north Jackson. So I would take like the 10-15-minute drive all the way down Jackson into, at that time, it was just desert and coyotes ruled the area, still do sort of, but so to me, kind of previous maps, and this is the way my interpretation, I was not there. But the way I see it, previous maps were sort of developed with certain points in mind and then community like sprinkled into the different districts. And I just, I am here to support draft plan 109 because I see it that we are keeping communities first, kind of focused on central Indio, my Sun Gold community. I'm wearing my Tamale Festival shirt. I thought Gobi did a great presentation earlier too. And he kind of said it best of like trying to do things different. I really appreciated that. My point in that is that I rode my bike from my home to the Tamale Festival, easy access to downtown. I think that is another community that should stay together. Off of King Street, and I know people, parking was all the way out there during the Tamale Festival. So that, if you're hesitant about this map, I understand it's changed, but I'm encouraging you to look down the line where we could have IT jobs here in Indio, more healthcare jobs here in Indio, because everything you need is in Indio. We're not here to divide and create borders. We're here to bring people together because Indio is the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rivera. We do have one more public comment to speak who is present, Mr. Jonathan Becerra.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm here to support draft plan 109. And Kari, give a little background. First, I want to start off saying, I don't think anyone can suggest that we're going to convince anyone on this map today, but I really want to start encouraging guys that as you go forward with this, take a look at the numbers. A lot of community input was done with this map. A lot of good political science was done, researching the numbers, going beyond just the population balance, but looking at communities of interest. Like the previous speaker said, what are the paths people are already taking to connect to their economic centers? Are those economic centers evenly divided amongst the different districts? Can people, while they're canvassing, while they're organizing, while they're planning for elections, tap into things equally? So I personally feel that the work within this map is to put the residents first, but also keep neighbors together, keep people who think as each other as partners in the community, continue to work together, keep communities and communications of interest streamlined and within people who are already using them. So with that, Indio Residents United map was a grassroots effort. It was partnered with CNC, and we've done a lot of work with them, and they've engaged the community, a lot of phone calls. I'm sure they have more to say on through Zoom if they're present, but I was very impressed with the way they really just sat down and listened with all kinds of people, took the time to explain all these complicated methods, and the map they produced is what you see here. The two things I really want to highlight is the way it keeps kind of like neighborhoods together. I think of some of the people who were present on the last workshop, a lot of the community put forth that, why aren't these, communities up in the northern part who are already talking to each other, who already have communication networks and, estate sales and good, socials together. Why aren't they more together? Why isn't Central Indio so split amongst the 5 districts? So taking those parts into consideration, I think you see a more streamlined focus of communication, community travel, economic support and synergy amongst these different districts. So, but I can only say that I really, again, encourage everyone, including staff, to just look at the statistics, see how this supports voters, residents, future economic development, future of India. So, because I believe myself, and I think anyone who's worked with me, I love this city, and I have only worked to want the best for it. So take that for what it is. And I really, really urge you, just consider it, really consider, and like she said, change can be good. And even though it's scary at first, talking in public is scary, but I still do it. But I really appreciate you guys' time and energy and staff's energy and accommodating the community in it. So thank you guys.
All right, thank you for your comments, Mr. Becerra. Do we have someone online?
Yes, Mayor, we have a few members. I would like to call on Annalisa Vargas. Annalisa, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Furman and members of the council. My name is Annalisa Vargas, and I'm an active resident in the city of Indio. And I live in the Desert Trace community near Jackson Street and Avenue 42. And I would just like to discuss a little bit of the redistricting process and how there's important state and federal laws to ensure that this process is followed in the best way using our ranked redistricting criteria that the city council is required to abide by when drawing and selecting its draft map recommendations for the city council to consider. And so I'm just going to go down a few of those. So number 1 is the final map must have districts that are substantially equal in population, as you already know. Secondly, the map must comply with Section 2 of the Federal Voting Rights Act, also known as VRA. The city must follow also a required redistricting criteria laid out in the Fair and Inclusive Redistricting for Municipalities and Political Subdivisions, also known as the Fair Maps Act, in this order of priority. So its first is contiguity, then it's keeping neighborhoods and communities of interest within the city whole, following also natural and artificial boundaries and compactness. And so also just want to remind the city may not adopt a map that favors or discriminates against a political party and cannot consider relationships with political parties, incumbents, or political candidates when assessing communities of interest. So just want to also urge the council to, really take a look at draft plan 109 that really took a lot of time and effort and thinking about the communities, keeping our communities of interest whole and honoring them, making sure that they are have enough resources, their economic centers, and there are some new district boundaries. But again, it's all in compliance, and some have been moved. For example, District 1 and 2 have been moved to Avenue 41 and continue southeast along Avenue 42, 43, and 44 to balance each district's population. And the main district between District 1 and 2 will be Monroe Street. And so, because a lot of what we noticed when we were looking at this is there's some, currently some of the boundaries really are splitting up communities of interest. And there's a couple examples like off of Clinton Street and Shadow Palm or Shadow Avenue, where there's a actually Jose, who's in the audience. His community
Wrap it up.
is
You
split
have
up.
3 minutes or
Okay, I just wanted to just specify that I guess I have too much to say, but in other words, we just don't want to split our communities of interest as they are part of the rank redistricting criteria right after the VRA. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you for being a great assistance in this process. We'll move on to the next speaker.
Christian Rodriguez, followed by Karen Borja.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. Good evening, Mayor Furman and members of the council. My name is Christian Rodriguez Ceja, and I'm an active resident of the city of Indio. I'm a member of the community group Indio Organizing Power, and I've lived in Indio for a big portion of my life. I urge you to adopt map draft 109, also known as the Indio Residents United map. And I just wanted to share a little bit of what was said earlier about the thought that went into this process. A lot of community outreach went into this, and several community members were brought into the designing of this map, and decisions that were made for this map were taking a lot of numbers into consideration. The first thing that I would like for you to consider is that this map is the only map that was in your package that has a district with a 6% Black CVAP. So this is the only map that does this, that unites the Black vote in such a way. And another district has a 4%. All the other maps I was reviewing, and it really split up that particular community. Another thing that I would like to consider is that this map took into consideration communities that were housing burden based on the Callen-Biro screen. There are a lot of different of the communities, and particularly the census tracts that I'm going to highlight right now are the ones that I would like for you to consider. Census tract 606504503 and census tract 606504552. Those two particular census tracts have been split in the past with the previous map. This map takes into consideration that these communities are communities that are being affected severely by housing burden, and particularly with bad air pollution. This particular map and this redistribution gives power to these disenfranchised communities that have not been able to really exercise their power by being able to elect someone that is from within this community and that is going to have housing and environmental priorities at the forefront of all of the decision-making process. I want to end by saying that once again, this process invited a lot of community members, and we've done outreach, and we will continue to do outreach in the following month to get community buy-in and to make sure that this map really is representing what research and all of the thought that went into it. I want to say thank you for your time and thank you for listening to us.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Ceja. We'll go to the next speaker, please.
Karen Borja, you have 3 minutes.
Hello, Council and Indio residents. My name is Karen Borja. I'm a resident of the Sungold community along Miles Avenue. I'm calling in support of draft map 109. The importance of this map is that it creates 4 Voting Rights Act. It's the only map with a district with 6% of Indio's Black population being kept together. It is contiguous of the communities in the different districts that were created, and it also creates compact districts. Draft map 109 aligns with the city general plan, with the downtown specific plan, and with the recently approved housing element, as well as the Bermuda Dunes Airport Plan, the Callen-Biro Screen 4.0 that was recently released, and Proposition 68 that funds parks. For me personally, Draft Map 109 keeps the centers I frequent together. I'm a part of a cycling club called the Valley Kittens. We ride on Wednesdays from the swap meet. So to meet up with the club, I ride down Miles Avenue, I turn on Oasis, and on nights when I don't ride with the club, I travel to the swap meet using my car along these corridors. So for me, it really makes sense to keep Miles Avenue, the downtown, all the way down Monroe as proposed by 109. I have been looking at maps and working on redistricting for the last 2 years, and before that, doing some census work. So I'm here to share with you that it's important that you understand the maps the hired demographer shared with you are not sound for your consideration. This is because after 3 public hearings, none of the maps NDC has shown you tonight differ from what we had in 2016 with 10,000 less residents in the city of Indio. I attended a previous hearing and none of the public comments given are reflected in the consultant's draft maps. Again, the only map that really takes into consideration laws behind redistricting, respects what Indio residents know are their communities of interest, and accounts for the population growth is Draft Map 109. And that's what I would like you to consider for the future of Indio. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Borja.
Next, we'll have Mitzi Esquivel, followed by Maribel Nunez.
Hello.
Mitzi, you have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. Hi, I'd like to keep this short. Hello, my name is Mitzi Esquivel from District 4, and I'm here to support the draft 109. I will, again, like I said, I'll keep this short. Considering that this map is supported by residents and our community, I hope that you also support it and adopt it. I would like to emphasize that this would be the best decision for our town. Our disenfranchised communities just need the support from all our council members, and I really do hope you take this into consideration. I have to go in a bit, but thank you again. Thank you to all the council members. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Maribel, you have 3 minutes.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello. Thank you, Mayor, and the rest of the Indio City Council. My name is Maribel Nunez with Inland Equity Partnership and Coachella Valley Immigrant Dignity. I wanted to reiterate a lot of the residents from the Indio Residents United and support the draft map 109. I did send out an email to the city clerk and some of the city council members of our support. I think it falls in line with the redistricting criteria, number 1 being the Voting Rights Act and the equal population. It aligns perfectly with the citizen voting age population, with the Voting Rights Act, the communities of interest within the neighborhoods. And like I said, it had a lot of input from the residents. And so please, we ask that you support draft map 109. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have no further comments, Mayor.
We have no further comments. We have no further requests to speak. So what I would do now is close the public hearing and open it up to our council for comments and questions.
Mayor, if
Yes.
I may, just one person raised her hand now.
Absolutely. So I will reopen the public hearing and it will take one more comment.
Sandra, you have 3 minutes.
Buenas noches, alcalde y miembros del consejo. Mi nombre es Sandra, soy residente de la ciudad de Indio.
Want to come up here?
Can you tell her just to give a couple of lines so you could translate and she could continue, and we'll give
Simultaneously.
additional time if you need to finish.
Señora,
¿Sí?
estoy diciéndole al consejo, voy a pedir el favor de que me dé lo que va a decir por segmentos.
Ok. Buenas noches, alcalde y miembros del consejo. Mi nombre es Sandra.
My name is Sandra and good night to everybody at the council meeting.
Soy residente de la ciudad de Indio y he vivido aquí durante 8 años.
I'm a resident of Indio, have lived here for 8 years.
Vivo en el distrito 5 entre 111 y Monroe.
I live between 111 and Monroe.
Como madre de familia estoy aquí apoyando el proyecto del Plan 109.
And as a mother and head of the family, I am supporting the 109.
Por, nues-
ordinance
por las familias de Indio.
and for the Indio families.
Como han visto los mapas que ha presentado la ciudad de Indio,
And as you can see, the maps the city of Indio has presented us
no demuestra una representación equitativa.
do not show an equitable representation.
Es por eso que les insisto que adopten el proyecto de Plan 109,
That is the reason for what I ask that you for the Plan 109.
conocido como el mapa de residentes de Indio Unidos, ya que empodera a la comunidad negra.
The map of United Citizens of India, where there is an Afro-American community,
Con 6.3% CPAC en Distrito 4,
with 6.4 on District 4,
3.88% CPAC en el Distrito 5,
¿dónde? ¿El 3% dónde?
3.85% CPAC en el Distrito 5.
And 3.85% on District 5.
Este mapa cumple totalmente con la ley de derechos electorales.
This map is completely fair according to the electoral maps.
Incluye 4 distritos BRA con más del 50% CIVA latino.
And includes, ¿me repite por favor?
4 distritos PRA.
Oh, and it includes 4 PRA or PRI districts.
Con más del 50 CIVA latino.
With more than 50% Latino population.
Gracias por su tiempo.
Thanks for your time.
Great, thank you, Taylor. We appreciate our comments.
I have another one, Edith. Edith, you have 3 minutes.
Señora Edith?
Hi, are you able to hear me well?
Yes, we are.
Good evening, Mayor Wayman and City Council members. I'm just going to keep this short, and based on the presentations that were provided tonight on the different map, I'd like to urge you to take into consideration map 109. And based on what I'm hearing from everybody else, I believe that this is the best decision for the city of Indio. And I'd like to thank you all for your time and really consider map 109. Thank you.
And I see no other hands raised.
All right, that concludes our public comment portion. I will now close the public hearing and open it up to council. If council has questions or deliberations. Councilmember Holmes.
Lots to think about. Looking at draft plan 109, that's a lot of thought was put into this. So it's interesting because when I went through the process before, I think we were very conscious of splitting off the North Indio from the South and making sure that everybody was integrated. And draft plan 109 certainly has its merits. I'm absorbing, there's a lot of information here to consider. I applaud everyone that put that together. Clearly a lot of thought. When I look at some of the other, and I'm looking forward to hearing from the rest of my fellow council members, there seems to be a little bit of imbalance as well, whether it's 108 or 101. So I'm looking at, how we might be able to create more of a balance. 109 is intriguing. That's, really just kind of some of my thoughts at the moment. A lot of work is going into this.
Thank you, council member. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to keep that one into consideration, Plan 109 into consideration, considering the fact that, all these community members put so much work into it. And I know there was real professional work that went behind it and, political studies and just the numbers. We got to go by the numbers. So I think one of my questions to our consultant is, do you feel that this brings us closer to the requirements from the from the redistricting requirements from the federal government and the state. Another question I had was with Plan 105 and 108, what is the real difference between those? Look very similar to me. So I just wanted to see what is the difference between those two.
So,
No.
We get to press the button up there.
there we go. Okay, so the difference, and if we could pull, can we pull up the,
Oh, sorry.
can we pull back up that?
Sorry, 106 and 108.
106 and 108.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. So the major difference between 106 and 108, so let me pull up 106 first, is this area here. So in 106, as you'll see here, to balance out some of the population, 106 adds this area generally bounded by the 10 freeway, Monroe, Avenue 44, and Jackson into, that would be District 1. And in Plan 108, that is all part of, that area is all part of District 2.
Gotcha.
And then just to balance those out, this captures slightly, District 2 captures slightly more areas here in this area to balance out the population. That's the major difference between those two.
And then what is your opinion on Plan 109 in terms of reaching the goals of the state and federal requirements?
So Plan 109, I can't offer an opinion on, that's the purview of the council and the public, but in terms of the requirements of the Voting Rights Act, it is compliant with the Voting Rights Act, yes.
And are all of these compliant with the Voting Rights Act?
Yes.
Okay.
Excuse me, with the exception of the ones that we noted that are not population balanced, yes, they are.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember.
Thank you. I appreciate the input from everyone. A little bit of everything went into the planning of all this when we first did it. We were trying to keep not only community areas of interest, but also make sure that we didn't separate everything north and south because of the newer parts of the community and the older parts of the community. So that each council member would have both sections of it to be able to integrate in so that we could communicate more and have more of a balanced interest of what everything went on. 109 kind of splits it up. I think we did a good job originally putting this all together. I think the less opportunity to change things so people get to vote more often than less often, because the way it's set up, some people will not be able to vote, for 6 years if they didn't get to vote for some of it. The map 108, 101 allows a less change so that those people got their voice voted on instead of having to wait some of them 4 to 6 years to be able to vote on a section. So I like the planning between what we already did and some simple changes. But I'm appreciative of 109 and them putting the effort into putting that together. More than happy to look at it.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Amit, do you have any comments?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, for allowing me time to comment. My biggest opposition to the initial round of drawing the district maps when we first did this a few years ago was that communities of interest were being separated. And I hope that in the future that we keep that first and foremost. I have no way of evaluating these maps because there's no comparison to the proposed demographics from where we are now. So I mean, it's just a bunch of pictures. But second to making sure communities of interest are kept together, the main focus of our conversation the last time, and I hope it is still again this time, is to maintain natural boundaries. As it is, the districts are very difficult to explain even to the representatives. And I'd like for us to try to easily create districts that we can articulate to the constituency You know, if you're north of I-10 and east of Jackson, then you're in this district. If you're south of 111 and north and west of Monroe, you're in this district. I-10 and 111 are the major dividers of our city, because that's the way our city grew. Everything between I-10 and Highway 111 is original Indio, the center being, of course, Jackson, and then we sprawled out toward Jefferson. And then as the annexations came on, they went south and northwest. So it's important to take into consideration the way our city grew, because those are the communities of interest, from the core to the north to the south. And being able to articulate to constituents what their district boundaries is very important to them. Right now it's gerrymandered, and I see a lot of gerrymandering in a lot of these maps that are being proposed. And I don't support gerrymandering. I want to maintain natural boundaries, be it a canal, be it a street, a major arterial, not some little street that divides two parts of a community. So moving forward, those are the focus items that I'll be looking at. Number one, I want to see comparison to the maps that do meet the balanced population compared to the demographics of what we currently have. Number two, I want to keep communities of interest together. And number three, I want to maintain natural boundaries for ease of articulation on where the district boundaries are. And I think that's very important. It may not be included in any of the federal or state laws, but it is important to the constituency for them to understand what district they're in. And right now, it's really hard to articulate. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And I will conclude with, first of all, thank you for the work that's been, I believe this is our third hearing.
Yes.
Correct? And thank you to our city staff. We had a weekend workshop as well, and I appreciate that effort, knowing that there's folks who can't attend these meetings in the evening or on the weekdays. So we were able to do that also online, and that's something that I know that's a concern with some of our constituency. And I also want to thank the staff for your efforts on the translation portion of it, being that 60% of our community is Spanish speaking or Latino. So I do appreciate that. And of course, it's a work in progress. Nothing's perfect with technology and the Zoom world, but we're getting there. And I did look at the maps, and I appreciate the effort that went into map 109 and all the maps, that these are draft maps that we are, able to look at. But I want to really convey to our public that these maps are generally for voting and representation purposes. So as you move forward, really make the effort to strengthen that relationship with your individual council member or those folks in the future that may possibly be running, because that is kind of generally why we do districting. As a council and as a mayor, we represent the whole city. I'm in District 2, which is north of the freeway and a portion of Old North Indio. But last night, I was over by Winchell's working with some of our homeless folks. 2 weeks ago, I was down to Carry-On Park working with some of our homeless folks. And 3 weeks ago, I was over in front of Martha's Village and Kitchen at night, where folks are burning fires to stay warm, working with some of those folks. So we make our rounds in this community. So we represent this community as a whole. With that being said, I want folks to keep that in mind. I won't give any comments on where I feel right now with the maps. I will submit a map, but I want folks to really take that into consideration when you start breaking up certain communities, as far as really deviating from what we already have, because what you have to take into consideration is the folks who have voted these last previous rounds, they voted for some of the folks that's sitting up here now. So when we deviate so much from what we already have, you're kind of taking some of the votes from some of your neighbors. So I'm okay with change. I believe change is good. It's not easy sometimes, but take those things into consideration when we're drawing these maps. I thank you, the community, for the participation. Our Deputy City Manager, Scott Trujillo, said at the workshop, if you're not tech savvy and you don't have the ability to go on the website to make a map or understand how this process works, feel free to come to City Hall, grab a map and draw it on paper, and our staff will look at it. And we really want you to be that involved, because this is very, very important, not for us, but for the community. So I want to thank the community, thank our consultants and city staff. And actually, before I conclude, we're talking about boundaries, right, with these districts. By no way boundaries precludes certain districts from having better county services, better city services, public safety services. We serve our community as a whole. So I want you guys all to understand that. And this is for representation and voting purposes, and especially now. Touch bases with your council member, touch bases with your community service representative, touch bases with all those folks. And that's how we work. There's power in numbers. So when we're all connected, we can get a lot of things done. So we have, I believe, I don't know how many more hearings we have, but is it 2? Okay, we'll get to you. I think we still have a couple more hearings. We have one more hearing left. So we urge the community to really be involved in this next hearing. And in the meantime, submit more maps. I like to see more maps. And I'll turn it over to the Mayor Pro Tem. He has one more comment.
I think that the other thing to consider here is I do see in map 109 the reflection of housing burden neighborhoods and their representation in different districts. Because right now, I know I have a lot of concentration in my district. You know, when we knocked doors, there were so many families that were housing burdened. And right now, all those people only have one representative, right? And so I think when we start splitting those up, depending on how those are split up, that might lead to less representation over time. That's one of the issues I see. The other one is air quality. And so when we overlay these with the air quality, it also gets into those areas where do the areas in the industrial areas get split up? Or, you know, do they have representation in one voting district or multiple voting districts? The other concern I had is when we're looking at at least in my district, District 4, when Ms. Ramos Amit was talking about the natural boundaries, I think a lot of these, when we see it there, we're adding on stuff that's over the wash or across from Highway 111. I think we currently have stuff that's over Highway 111. So I think I would rather have that be expanded in the more northern part of the district, where like Arabian Gardens, those type of areas, instead of over the wash or over 111. If we were to go to if we were to keep similar districts that we have now. And those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So,
I just have one final comment.
Okay, Councilmember, go ahead.
Because you made this comment in the public, and I've heard it made public many, many, many times, and I don't want the demographer to get the wrong impression. Yes, it is true. The city of Indio has historically been over 60% Hispanic. There's no doubt about it. That does not translate into over 60% Spanish speaking. And I want to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager?
Yeah, just as a suggestion, having walked this road before, as some of you have back in 2017, 18, it might be very helpful, just as you conclude the item, Mayor expressed interest in looking at 109, perhaps 108, 101. If you can kind of guide us a little bit, there'll be other maps coming in, as you suggest, Mayor. We can research a couple of tweaks. But using the city attorney's term, we can't punt too long because there is this state deadline. So there's this balance between not wanting to be rushed, but also giving us a little more guidance so that we can fine tune things. I just did some based on Councilmember Amit's comments. I'm not sure we will population balance to hit all of the natural boundaries, but if that's something you want us to look at more closely with Jeff, we can do that. So maybe just one last, maybe 3 minutes of input to guide us. It could be selecting 3 maps to focus on, a couple of items as the Mayor Pro Tem just mentioned. We're taking notes and we'll listen and bring that back to you. So just a little more guidance and we can move ahead.
Okay, well, it's okay, council, or? do we
I
have
can
any-
start.
What's that?
I can start.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
I think it's easy to throw out the ones that are not balanced. So how many does that leave us?
That leaves with 6.
6.
There were 3.
And,
unbalanced.
Okay,
those are not-
so I would say stick with the ones that are balanced. And only because 109 is too far of a deviation from what we have now, I would rule out 109. It could be a goal that we can work towards, but I don't think that strong of a shift in districts would be healthy moving forward. So I would rule out 109. So it would rule it down to what, 4?
5.
5, okay.
City manager, as we go through this process, what are you looking for? About 3 maps, 4? What?
Thank you. 4 or 5 would be helpful. And as you stated, Mayor, there might be another couple that trickle in. In fact, I might on the comment just made, those that were proponents of 109, perhaps they can look at not such a dramatic shift that, as Council Member Miller indicated, disenfranchises some voters that just barely voted, that wouldn't be able to vote again for 6 years. So maybe our proponents of 109 can look at something that was not quite as dramatic of a shift. And then maybe 4 more, something like that, Mayor.
That sounds good. If you, yeah, the mic's open, we're looking at maps, so.
On 101, I think that one would look better if we were taking away, I see we're taking away from District 1 on the east, on the middle east part, like across the wash. I think it'd be better to take away from District 1 near Fred Warren and Clinton. I think that's more of, that area is more, those all go to the same schools. It's more of a contiguous neighborhood there. And then on District, I see we already have part of District, what could be part of District 5. So instead of having that area across 111, I think it'd be better to have the area next to the high school. I think that is also more contiguous with District 4 in that area. I think, and also I do see some of them that split up down our downtown area from Monroe to the downtown. I don't think that's going to be a good split for those neighborhoods. I think those are pretty contiguous as well.
Okay.
And maybe if I could jump in, Mayor Pro Tem, south of Highway 111, that's currently in District 4.
Yeah.
Would that make sense in District 5 in your mind?
Yes.
Back to the comment of Highway 111 and boundaries.
Yeah, I think that would make more sense in District 5 if we were to replace that with the areas next to the high school.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That Clinton area you spoke to, that might balance that out.
Yeah.
That's a good suggestion.
My initial thought, as I look at Plan 105, I'm looking at 105 and 108 at the moment.
Plates, or it is populated. Yeah.
I like some of the changes Councilman or Mayor Pro Tem Ortiz just made as well.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have something to say, feel free to jump in.
I would just draw attention while some are thinking that both 105 and 108, if we look at the spreadsheet that the consultant prepared, show, for example, the Hispanic population, 108, 80, 77, 76% Hispanic population. 105 has all districts, majority Hispanic, one 80%, the other 76, 77. Those are things you'd want to look at, I think, particularly for our community. It's likely that District 1 would be hard to get much over 50%, but that 105 does, or maybe this is 101 I'm looking at, I'm sorry.
And Mr. City Manager, if I can jump in on that, if you look at the chart right below the total population demographics, it shows the citizen voting age population demographics. So under the Hispanic CVAP, you'll see that 3 districts in Plan 105 are majority, more than majority Hispanic, as well as in Plan 108, you have District 2, 3, and 4, with all 3 being over 70%.
Well, a super majority, one would argue.
And 5 is at 45.41.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I concur with Mayor Pro Tem Ortiz on changing a little of the boundaries on District 1 up a little bit on Clinton in that area to go up. And I do agree at the high school. I like plans 105, 106, and 108. I think 109 is too much change to our voters and disenfranchises a lot of them that have already voted. That's my personal opinion.
No, on 101.
101 would be one of the other ones. I don't have a problem with 101 either. I like keeping the boundaries somewhat the same. But I do agree with you on moving some of that into the other area, on area 4.
Another question I have too, I guess maybe this is for the council, or I'm not sure if the consultant can answer this, but when we're looking at the VRAs, is it better to have the higher amount in 3 districts or the lower amount in 4 districts? So over 50, but is it preferable to have 4 VRA districts at like 50 to 60%, or is it preferable to have 3 VRA districts 70 and over %?
I think that it's better to have 3 because we're trying to get as close as we can to the citywide average. So the citywide average is not 75%. So
If I may, one thing that I would mention is that when we're looking at VRA aspects, we have to be looking at the citizen voting age population. It's not just the total population. And so you'll see we look at what the current districts are. So if you look at your existing districts, districts 2, 3, and 4 are currently have majority Latino citizen voting age population. Latindistrict 5 is at 48%, which is very close. But as you know, District 5 has elected a Latina candidate. So it's what we refer to as a performing district. So District 5 in most of the maps here, again, keep very close to that, close to 50% population. That's something that could be considered. But again, because it's what we refer to as a performing district, in District 5, it's not a requirement.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the difference between that and in the 109, we have the 60%, 79%, 64%, and 58%. And so we have 4 VRA districts in that one that are substantially over.
Yeah, just when you look at that in comparison to the current district makeup, and I know it's different because the 109 is different in terms of area. District 2, 3, and for example, currently District 2 is 71%, District 3 is 74%, District 4 is 72% of the Hispanic voting population. And of course, District 5, 48.
Well, City Manager, I know you're taking notes, so I'll give my preferred ones and comments. My preferred maps would be 101, 105, and 108. And as I do appreciate the work that went into 109 and the engagement from the organization, I just think cutting that district off on the top wouldn't serve our inner city to the best that we can. So I think it would need to be adjusted a little more, not to say that we can't get there, but right now I don't think that's the best direction we could go as a city.
Well, I think that's very helpful. There's been some consensus there with a few tweaks, getting some of these natural boundaries. So we'll do a little more work, and any other maps that come in, we can continue to look at. The next hearing date, Jeff, is February 2nd. Is that right?
Yes.
And that would be a time to be a little more concrete, but I think at that point we're moving ahead. So if we want to have a matter included in the packet, we would need it at least a week prior to the 2nd. So about another week, another 5 to 7 days of new ideas, or maybe that 109 group could look at something not quite as dramatic if you want to consider. We would need that within about a week.
Yeah, I would say by January 26th, that's a Wednesday. And that allows Jeff some time, because last time we were doing it on a Friday, allows Jeff, some time to do that. So and certainly we have the mapping tool, we have the instructions in Spanish, and we can work with Scott to make maps available at City Hall that people can pick up. I know that one person submitted a map with lines drawn from the workshop, took one of the big maps that we had and left it at City Hall. So we're happy to do that as well.
It's great. Thank you.
I think we have